I don't understand what the big deal is being on a cover. Matthew Tkachuk is on the cover. Jazz Chisholm was on a cover. People, they do like a release party for the cover. Did I miss something that it's a big nod to the Panthers?
It's a huge deal to be a cover athlete. And down here in South Florida, historically, haven't had many cover athletes on video games for your teams. We've had John Van Beesbrook in the 90s, Jazz, aforementioned Jazz
D-Wade
Chisholm.
had one.
Why do I remember Ricky Williams on a cover?
Did
Is that right?
D-Wade have one?
That was NFL Street 2, but it was like an animated Ricky Williams, I think.
Which one did Dwayne Wade?
I think he was on an NBA Live.
He was
back in the day.
Tim Hardaway had an NBA Live.
That was like a 2K. Like
D-Wade was also on the cover of NBA Live like 2 years ago, like Legends Edition, where he was in like the
LeBron was
Miami
on
Vice.
the cover.
Has to have been on a cover.
LeBron was on the cover of 14 or 15.
Tim
But as a Heat
Hardaway
member?
was on the cover of NBA Live 98. But what I'm saying is it hasn't happened much.
NBA Live 06. Great year for it, by the way.
By then, the franchise was dying. It's
You've named
06
more of
championship
these
year?
covers, Mike.
He means NBA
2K.
Live.
Okay.
not the Miami Heat franchise. But that's still not many.
It seems like a lot.
No, it's really
You've
not.
named like a dozen covers.
No, it's really not.
How many covers are there per year? Aren't they
across
one-
all the major sports?
Yes.
I can't remember a Dolphin having one. Like, there's 4 major sports, which means 4 new video games every year over the course of 30 years I've highlighted.
Well, there also used to be like NFL Blitz, and there used to be like NFL Fever on
was
Xbox,
NFL.
and then ESPN had an NFL game for a while. So like, there was a time there was like 4 versions of the same game every year.
Gold standards, like the EAs and the 2Ks. We've had Tim Hardaway, John Van Beesbrook, Jazz
D-Wade.
Chisholm on the show. That's up there with a name brand.
Does Antoine Walker count if he was a Celtic?
No, he doesn't.
You gotta be wearing the uniform.
So only the second Florida Panther ever to grace a video game cover. Matthew Tkachuk now joining John Van Beesbrook. That's close to 30 years over there. So this is a really cool moment.
But the math is, I think that there's 30 franchises. There'd be one every 30 years.
We're getting bogged down.
The reason I'm bogged down is people act like when Jazz Chisholm got it, it became a thing. Like he in his mind became a star.
I think that's why you're bothered by it, because Jazz is probably, I would say off the top of my head, maybe the least deserving cover athlete that I can remember.
Ever.
And I think you're just
He's
harping
popular
on
with kids, though.
People were mad,
And he's,
when
like,
he
big
got
on
it.
social.
Outside of Miami, people were mad that Jazz was on the cover because they're kind of like, what
And
has he
that's
done?
what I'm getting at. Is anyone upset that the cover athlete...
There's
Chuck
been
is
some
not-
bad ones. There was one year where they went to a vote, and who was the white running back who won it? Surprisingly, a white guy.
Peyton Hillis.
Peyton Hillis.
Hillis
That
won
was a
it.
big
It's like,
moment.
what was
I was a
that
Browns
about?
fan at the time. That was super.
That was
you get
huge.
super pumped up when your guy is on the cover. Yeah. Telling you, it's a big deal.
I
made
bought
him
the
super
Jazz
famous.
video game just because Jazz was on the cover.
David, if one of your Marlin players were on it, you would have.
We loved it when they were on the cover of SI. We loved it. Now,
So what's the disconnect here?
we even framed when you were on the cover of Inside Sports. We'd keep that. That was a magazine that used to
Right,
exist.
you thought that was cool. So why is it weird that fans think it's cool when one of their players is on a cover of a game?
I was asking whether he was the most deserving Panther. That was the
This
question.
might be the most deserving cover. I mean, he could have gotten the cover after getting traded and losing in the Cup Finals. He couldn't got the cover after winning the first one. He got the cover after winning the second one, which I don't know. I guess that means maybe he wasn't as people didn't like him as much before, but now he's pretty much the face of
After
the league.
4 Nations, he's the face of American hockey.
After Mick overrated.
He's Canadian, though.
Yes. You guys were talking at the same time and you didn't hear each other.
Oh.
Thank you.
You
I was
both made
correcting
very
myself.
good points, though. He was correcting himself and it timed out. It happens, guys.
Yeah.
Back to green dildos.
It shouldn't happen now as we're finishing.
Fight
what
for it.
should be happening is we should be talking separately so we can hear. Are you saying that Tkachuk is the most famous American hockey player who plays today?
I think so. Yeah, I think he's the most famous.
Who's
most
second
famous?
place?
Yes. I think most famous. It's less of a debate when than it is like best.
Austin Matthews is in that conversation.
You have Quinn Hughes too. It's difficult to say. I mean, Austin Matthews is perceived to be the better player quite easily. There's a wide gulf there, but in terms of fame, and I think this is another notch for Matthew Tkachuk. Matthew Tkachuk, when he came here to this market, he was excited to come to Florida. Not a lot of people were excited to come to Florida. This was viewed as a place where you would go retire, and it immediately jumped off the young man how much he wanted this for the market, how much he didn't shy away from being media friendly. He welcomed being the face of Panthers hockey. And there may be better players on this team. In fact, there are better players on this team than Matthew Tkachuk. But there isn't a more important player in the history of the franchise in terms of turning its fortunes around. He brought a new attitude, a new direction for the franchise, and it's cool to just see this as he's adorning this cover with the Stanley Cup overhead.
Wow.
You know, that's a really cool moment for South Florida hockey, which is always looking for a respect abroad and domestically, because we're always considered a joke. Well, this is another thing that kind of legitimizes a franchise.
I think we've passed that. You've got the Lightning dynasty. Now you're in the Panthers dynasty. Florida hockey is undoubtedly, it is the best state for hockey in the entire country. I would argue in the entire hemisphere, because Canadian, they haven't won anything. Last time a Canadian team won the Stanley Cup was a couple decades ago.
But this franchise has forced the issue with their success. Typically, if they made it to a Stanley Cup final, they'd be asked, hey, do the Winter Classic. Florida's been good now for a few years. They're finally participating in their first Winter Classic this upcoming December or January. So they've become so undeniable that you can't keep them out of these things anymore. Covers, Winter Classics.
Where is the Winter Classic?
Oh, you jerk.